It's one of the most violent cities in South America. Britain's travel advice is, don't come here. Buenaventura is notorious for its chop houses, where gangs dismember their rivals and body parts float in the water. It's also where much of the cocaine that reaches Britain comes from. A trade that shatters a community and forces children into a world of violence and abuse. So much blood's been spilt in a war that's gone on for so long, few realise it hasn't ended. We travelled with elite jungle forces in search of the crop that spawns this billion-dollar industry. And despite huge changes here, Colombia is again the world's leading producer of cocaine. America's involvement here is well known. Now, for the first time, British officers have agreed to emerge from the shadows and talk to the BBC about their role in the war on drugs.
We exchange intelligence, we work specific cases with these law enforcement agencies in order to have an impact on specific networks by seizing drugs, arresting people, and by seizing their assets, but also by helping the country to stabilise itself by making an impact on the organised criminals which cause so much harm here.
The government says things are improving here. But tell that to Maria Angulo. When she dared to stand up to the drug gangs, her 15-year-old son was gunned down. And when her daughter dared to testify in court, they came for her. Maria's had to abandon her home now, but she still refuses to be silent.
I don't know if they did it to punish me, because I've always tried to help the youngsters here. They taught me a lesson because they didn't just kill the child, they killed the family.
The choices are often stark for the sons and daughters of Colombia's poor. Children become recruits or victims of the gangs. And when day passes to night, it's the sicarios who come out to work. We were taken to meet one of them, an assassin who kills people for his boss. Just one of the many responsible for the blood that runs through this city's streets. A secret meeting was set up in a shabby downtown hotel, where a young man confessed to a life of crime that began when he was still a child himself.
Can you explain what is the life of a sicario?
Many things. Death, jail, drug trafficking. The boss calls me and tells me we have to kill this guy. And if he says I have to kill, I kill. If he says I have to chop, I chop. And I get a reward. And if someone is disrespectful, they have to be caught, killed, chopped.
Few survive this world. The profits can be great, so too the losses. Death or jail. For the inside story on the cocaine trade, we met a British drug trafficker serving time in Colombia.
Hi.
For security reasons, we can't show his identity.
Cocaine is just such a popular, fashionable drug, and the money's so big that 9 out of 10 people would say yes to that life-changing money.
And that makes the risk for people like yourself worth taking?
Well, if you're talking about an average yearly salary being able to be earned in 24 hours, yes. I don't think cocaine production in South America will ever stop, and I don't think the trafficking of cocaine will ever stop, and I don't think the consumption of cocaine will ever stop.
And nor too will this war on drugs. High in the hills on the border with Venezuela, anti-narcotics police move in. They have a tip, there's a cocaine lab here. Most of the gang escape, and only one arrest made. A local farmer tempted by the chance of some extra cash for his family. He's likely to get 5 years in prison. Because this is where he'd been working. A cocaine production site hidden deep in the woods.
Officers were deployed shortly after midnight, and then they've moved in onto this site. The people working here ran away. They've managed to make one arrest, and this is the key part of the laboratory. So the cocaine paste is brought up the hill and processed, and this is the final product. That's the cocaine that's sold on the streets of Britain and Europe and America, and it'll be taken across the border into Venezuela and shipped overseas. It's worth a handful of pounds in this country, but on the streets of Britain, that's probably thousands of pounds worth.
Britain's National Crime Agency took part in this operation, gathering intelligence. We spoke to one of their officers involved in the raid, but we can't identify him.
It's important to Britain, and it's important for the NCA, because all the labs that we blow up, all the cocaine that's seized here is cocaine that's not going to the UK, going to Europe, going to the States. And everything we stop here stops the supply in the UK.
Explosives are rigged, and the British officer and Colombian police pull back, knowing tomorrow this fight starts again. In a war against cocaine, it may well be impossible to win. Ian Pannell, BBC News, Colombia.